Good morning, everyone. Morning. How are you all today? Feels like Monday, but it's Tuesday. What's that all about? This is the bank holiday feeling. Hope you had a great bank holiday and did the sensible thing and didn't go anywhere. I've clicked something here. Got no idea what's happening. There we go. We're all right. Yes. Bank holiday in English. Bank holiday is the excuse to stay at home and not have to go out and be where other people are. Is that just me? That might just be me. But if you were going out on a picnic, take fruit salad because you don't have much room to pack when you go out on a picnic. So there's no point, or it's no good, taking a whole watermelon when you could chop it up and get it into a smaller area to make packing more effectively. So take fruit salad. If you're asked to go to the picnic for lots of people and bring fruit, take fruit salad, because if we chop things up into smaller bits, they fit in things better. Do you see where I'm going with this? Packing, coffee drink. You know when you pack to go on holiday and you're trying to keep the weight of the suitcase down, or you're trying to keep the size of the suitcase down, aren't you? Because you've got this good thing to lug everywhere. Do you really use the space effectively? Could you take a smaller suitcase? This is the big question. We're packing here. We're thinking about packing. Could you take a smaller suitcase? Well, we know what we do, don't we? If we can't get things in, we use all the little pockets of space, don't we? Do you do that? Stick your deodorant in a shoe, or stick your undies in your socks, in a trainer or something like that, don't you? You kind of use all the space effectively, or maybe you roll your t-shirts in a Marie Kondo kind of way, because they pack better. Love Marie Kondo and her packing strategies. So this is about thinking about planning anything, planning the fruit salad to the picnic, planning the packing for the holiday, planning effectively for your day. So when something's scarce, when space is scarce, and we've got to pack, or when money's scarce and we've got to kind of think carefully about what we do. Like, you think, don't you, if money's scarce, you think, well, if I buy this, what does that mean? I won't buy instead. And I don't think we do that with time as critically as we do with money, because money runs out, doesn't it? Whereas time it kind of doesn't, in a way, because even though it might run out today, well, there's always tomorrow. But if we have that kind of mindset that, like, well, it doesn't matter if I don't get it done today, I'll just do it tomorrow, it starts to have impacts kind of further down the line, isn't it? It's that Tim Grover quote about if you put something off today that you don't want to do, then you've got two things that you don't want to do tomorrow, and then three things the day after, and all that kind of thing. It's that, isn't it? So if we're spending money and we think, well, I'll buy this thing, buy this extra drink, have this extra night out, or whatever, great as all those things are, then we kind of understand that concept. But sometimes I wonder if we do with time in the same way, because time's kind of perpetual, isn't it? But often it's what we're not doing with time that would help us to use time more effectively and would help us to kind of get more into the day is I don't think we're packing very well. I think there's a lot of loose change lying around. There's a lot of time packing loose change lying around that we'd maybe use more effectively if we kind of stepped back and had a look at time more clinically on a regular basis, daily, at the end of the week for next week, all that kind of thing. And remember, and I talk about this when I'm doing sessions, is this thing called the planning fallacy, that we tend to overestimate how long short tasks take and underestimate how long tasks take. There's a piece of research done with graduates, and the graduates were asked how long did they think it would take to do their final dissertation or their thesis, or whatever you want to call it. And they thought about it, and they thought about if they got full days at it, how long would it take them to do, and they estimated 34 days. Then the person doing the piece of research said, well, let's think about this again. You've said 34 days. Do we agree that sometimes things may go well, and sometimes things might get in the way. You know, you might have a cold for a few days and you don't feel like working or whatever. Do we accept things get in the way? Yes, we do. Well, given that things might get in the way, what do we think's the kind of range? You know, what do we think's the least time we could do it in if it went well? What do we think's the most time it would take if some things, fairly routine things, not kind of life changing things like being in hospital, but fairly routine things like you just don't fancy work on this day or whatever. How long do you think it'll take? Um, you know, or you need a book and you can't find the book or whatever. And they said, well, it could probably range between 27 days and 48 days. So then they looked at the average of how long it took this group of students to do their final dissertation thesis, and it took them 55 days. So they'd gone from an estimate of 34 days that had the reality of the world put to them, that sometimes things go well and sometimes things don't go well, and they'd extended that to say, well, maybe between 27 and 48, and it actually took them 55. So we're not good at estimating how long things are going to take, so we need to create some slack, I'd suggest, at the end of everything. And if it then takes the best time to do it, then we can use that slack for other things. Um, so one of the problems, I suppose, that we have even when concentrating is our bandwidth. And one of the problems when we're really busy, um, if we're really busy, we've got lots to do. So thinking less about students with that one-off task to do, and more about us trying to kind of balance out all of the things you've got to do. When we've got a lot to do, and we're feeling a bit frazzled, and we're feeling like we don't know what to do next. Um, there is a tax levied upon us in terms of the use of the bandwidth in our heads, and this is why I talk a lot about single tasking and kind of getting into the zone, getting into the deep work tunnel, so that you concentrate on one task at once. But the problem is when we've got lots of unmanaged things going on where we don't know what we're going to do with them, we haven't planned them effectively, is we're constantly drawn back to thinking about them, and that has a tax on our brains. This bandwidth idea that's laid out really nicely in a book called Scarcity. This bandwidth, that we've only got so much bandwidth in our heads, we can only cope with so many things. And if we're losing some of that bandwidth to thinking all the time about what have I got to do, when am I going to do this, if we're losing some bandwidth for that, then we haven't got as much bandwidth to utilize when we focus on a particular task. And that leads us to procrastination. Um, and procrastination is levied most heavily. The tax of procrastination is levied most heavily on people who have a lot to do. Um, because if you've got less bandwidth, then the procrastination takes up more of your time, more of your bandwidth, if you like. So we need to think about packing our days more efficiently, so that we can kind of get the most done. And that means predicting more effectively how long things are going to take. So giving yourself too long, I would suggest giving yourself a bit longer than you think it's going to take, so that you've got some slack should you need it. And if you don't need it, then you can pick up some smaller tasks in that slack. Tick some easy wins off your to-do list. Um, so that's the key there. But also when you are planning, try to kind of, when you build a wall, you place the bricks next to each other, don't you? And it's very kind of it's very structural, obviously, because it's a wall. In the way that you do it, it's very structural in the way you do it. And you can't just put them all higgledy-piggledy all over the place, or the wall will fall down. Well, it's the same with time. Pack it tight with that slack in place. Yeah. What am I doing 10 till 11? What am I doing 11 till 12? Having lunch. Then I'm having lunch. Then what am I doing? Half 12 till half 1. What am I then doing half 1 till 4? Pack it nice and tight. But within that, leave those additional bits of time in case things take a bit longer. Because as it turns out, we're not good at estimating how long time takes. Morning, Victoria. I see you've commented there. Good to see you catching up. relevant right now. Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. And being a student and parent, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you've got all these things to do, um, your bandwidth is taxed by these kind of things, isn't it? You've only got so much. You've only got so much. You have to be a parent first, don't you? You have to do that because those things need to be taken care of, kind of thing. You have to do that, and then you have to be a student, and then you have to do all the kind of other things you have to do. And the more we structure that, the more routine we give ourselves around those kind of things, the more effectively we pack those things, the less bandwidth they take up because that we know they're dealt with. I'll give you an example that I've used before. You might have heard it. The piece of there's a piece of research done with students where they give the students a piece of paper and said write down a task that you need to complete. And they give another set of students a piece of paper and said write down a task you need to complete and plan how you're going to achieve that task. So yeah, and then they got the students to read quite a heavy article, so that they had to really focus. And then at the end, they asked the students, how many times were you drawn back to the task that you'd written down beforehand? And what they found was the students who had just written the task down were drawn back to thinking about that task more than the students who were drawn back to thinking about the task who had a plan. Less people were drawn back to the task less often when they had a plan for it all. So planning is really critical because it helps us put aside the things, because think, well, I can't do that now. I don't need to do that now, but I've got a plan. I don't know when I'm going to get it done, but I've got a plan. That's going to be really difficult to fit in, but I've got a plan. It's all about the planning. So yeah, good luck, Victoria, kind of balancing those kind of things up. It's not easy. That's it's not easy, and uh, and I think when you've got children that need you as well, then those demands become emotional as well as practical as well, don't they? So I am not saying any of this is easy. It's not easy at all, but try we must. So let's go about our shorter weeks, because we've had a bank holiday Monday, or most of us have probably had a bank holiday Monday. So yeah, if you're going to the picnic, take fruit salad and think about how you are packing your time into this metaphoric suitcase. Metaphoric? That's right. Metaphoric. That's the right word, isn't it? Metaphorical. Metaphorical suitcase. Okay, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.